Welcome to Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague, Mary Gamba. The programming that you're about to see was taped earlier this year. Clearly, so much has changed since then, and unfortunately, a lot of uncertainty and fear remain. However, the issues and the topics raised in this edition of Lessons in Leadership will still matter once we get through these very challenging and difficult times. So without further ado, Lessons in Leadership. Welcome to Lessons in Leadership. I'm Steve Adubato. That is Mary Gamba. You catch us every week on AM 970 radio in New York every Sunday. Also on their website. And where's the other place they can find us?
All over the place. So you could find our podcast at Apple Podcast and Google Play. Also on our website, stand-deliver.com, njbia.org.
ROI.
As well as ROI.
What about the FiOS On Demand?
I know, this
you.
is great. So if you are a FiOS subscriber, like you and I both are, you can actually find us on FiOS On Demand as well. I would like to thank our sponsors too before we just keep...
Oh, you better, because then there's no cash.
I know, absolutely. So we have New Jersey Resources, our good friends there, Prager Metis.
One of the great accounting firms.
Yep, absolutely. Our friends over at Investors Bank. So we've got a ton of great sponsors making this show possible.
And by the way, investors got Bob's interest right away. Let's introduce Bob Feinberg, who is the founder and chairman of the board at Montclair Film, a great organization we'll be talking about, and also Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary, WNET New York Public Media, and there would not be a public television operation in New Jersey, otherwise known as NJTV, if it were not for Bob and Neil Shapiro and a group of people who made that happen in July of 2011. Good to see you, my friend.
Good to be here, Steve.
Do you separate your view of leadership when you created, with a group of terrific folks, Montclair Film, versus any other kind of leadership in the corporate world, which you know very well? Is there a difference between leadership in creating, building, developing, and promoting Montclair Film versus any other kind of leadership?
I think there's definitely a different kind of leadership when you're starting something from the ground up, something that wasn't there before.
By the way, I didn't give you a chance to describe what Montclair Film is.
So Montclair Film is a year-round nonprofit based in Montclair, New Jersey, that produces an annual film festival in May of every year. That's sort of our keystone event, but is really a year-round film education and entertainment nonprofit, headquartered in the Investors Bank Film and Media Center.
Thank you, Kevin.
Gift to the bank. Thank you, Kevin Cummings.
Kevin Cummings.
That has grown. We started it almost 10 years ago. We're going to celebrate our 10th anniversary next year, the year after.
It's going to be a big deal.
That'll be a big deal. But it was something that we started really from scratch, and I think that's a little different than leading, for example, the legal function at WNET, an organization that's been around for 60 years, and I'm maintaining the legacy, hopefully improving on it.
You had an idea. What's the connection between how you had to, quote, sell the idea, get others on board, and leadership?
Well, there's I think, a certain energy that's required. Just a consistency and a stick-to-itiveness, and to an extent a certain degree of a pain in the neck. I don't know what platforms are going to be on. Pain in the butt, and you're just sort of on it constantly in a way that old-fashioned expression. You're like the first person in the morning and the last person to leave at the end of the night. And for the originally the Montclair Film Festival, now Montclair Film, I was that person at the beginning. You're right.
You did a lot of stuff.
Well, I did a lot of stuff. None of it alone, but there was a while when, not exclusively, but most days I woke up in the morning thinking about Montclair Film and went to bed at night thinking about it, and continued just to sort of press people, and you deserve more credit than you're giving yourself, because you were a founding director of Montclair Film and a tremendous help. And as much as I thank Kevin Cummings and Investors Bank for their tremendous support, you're the person who introduced me to Kevin Cummings.
And it was Kevin Cummings who said, I want to know more about them because I'm excited about what they're doing. If Kevin Cummings didn't buy into it, investors, there's nothing I could have said that would have made a difference. But what I'm curious about is in almost the 10 years since you founded this organization, and by the way, let folks know some of the other important board members.
Well, a number of very important board members. So Evie Colbert is the president of the board, and Evie has been really a tremendous board member. I mean, many people know her as Stephen Colbert's wife, and that's certainly true. But
she's a terrific leader in her own right.
She is a terrific leader in her own right. That is true. She is a diligent worker who's tremendous supporter. People who've been with us from the very beginning, people like Rose Calley,
yes,
who's been so instrumental in the growth of Montclair State University. People largely from the Montclair area, but tremendous supporters really from every walk of life.
What I'm curious about is almost 10 years in, how much has your leadership style as the founder and chair of Montclair Film changed? Because when I was Mary and I were just talking about this, we're taping at the end of 2019, even though this will be heard and seen after that. Literally just last Saturday, as we're doing this program, there was an extraordinary event at New Jersey, NJPAC at the New Jersey Performing Arts Center, in which once again Stephen Colbert was doing this compelling, entertaining, funny, enlightening interview with Julie Louis-Dreyfus.
Yes.
That being said, to what degree do you now step back and let others lead?
Well, be clear about that event. I mean, I had something to do with it, but I was certainly not leading that event. I mean, we've got a tremendous staff now, about 10 people full-time year-round. They're really making these events happen. And my role is very different now. My leadership is very different. Well, first of all, I just can't be the guy who's like pushing everybody. First of all, they don't need it. Second of all, they wouldn't put up with me anymore. I mean, it's just enough of that. But they, in all seriousness, they don't need it. There are things that I can do to help because of a network I've developed over the years, because of relationships I'm lucky enough to have in place, friendships. Occasionally I have a good idea, but the execution, like that evening, Stephen Colbert, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, close to 3,000 people at NJPAC, John Schreiber's beautiful venue.
Schreiber's the best. NJPAC is awesome.
But that is a tremendous effort, and I thought was not only entertaining and enlightening, but to me it was flawlessly executed.
Raised a few bucks.
It raised a few bucks, which is very important for a nonprofit like ours. Yeah,
to say the least.
So it. Great event, but really the team is making it happen.
You're listening and watching Bob Fienberg, founder and chairman of the board of Montclair Film, and also vice president, general counsel, and secretary of WNET New York Public Media. Mary, jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just sitting here in awe just because hearing the discussion of how you just had this idea, seed, you planted it, and then seeing and hearing and watching how it's evolved. How do you find that you get people to buy into your vision and people to follow? And I never like to use the word follow. I don't know. It sounds like you're a follower, but join in. Thank you. Thank you very much. So how do you get people to join in and believe in that vision?
One answer, which sort of is obvious, is that success breeds success. And my mother-in-law says that a lot, and she's right. I mean, we've developed tremendous momentum thanks to the people who have gotten involved, the things that we've been able to do, really from day one. And there are lots of different ways to measure success. For a nonprofit, you can measure success, whether you're operating at a surplus or not. And we've, knock on wood, operated at a surplus, small surplus, but a surplus every year. We started in 2009. Really, when the economy was reeling.
Wow, I forgot. It just hit me when.
Yeah, right. So we formed the organization right at the beginning of 2010 and started building a board and started raising money. And really, it was the economic downturn that spurred on the creation of the organization, because we saw so many of the arts and education nonprofits in Montclair and the greater northern New Jersey area either scaling back or disappearing entirely. So we thought, we should step in. We should do something, and that was one of the ways that the organization was born. And we've worked really hard, and we've had some great contributors, and we've been really lucky. And as a result, there's been great momentum, and there are tons of ideas. People come to us with ideas. Really every day, somebody's got some new suggestion. Some of them are great, some of them are achievable, some of them aren't. But it's that kind of collaboration that helps. But a lot of it just comes out of a great momentum that we've built up and we've been able to maintain.
Bob, we've talked a lot on Lessons in Leadership about how people in very high pressured leadership situations have to try to manage their professional life and their personal life. Now, your son James happens to be with you today. I'm curious about this. Family is very important. You and I have had these conversations off air, if you will. And how the heck do you manage, I'm not going to say manage the balancing? There's a great book we talk about a lot, Off Balance, which says work-life balance doesn't exist. It's just trying to figure out how the heck to keep it all together. How do you do that, and how important is your wife Maggie and all that? Well,
listen, your family's the most important thing, right? And one of the great things for me about the film festival is that it's really been something that my family's been able to be involved in with me.
You integrate it.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a time early on when my kids were little. This goes back, 10, 12 years ago, where I would sort of joke around and say, like, what I really want to do is start a hardware store. I think that would really be funny, to start a hardware store, a little neighborhood hardware store. You could go in, I like to put things on the shelf neatly, and I like that kind of stuff. And then it was, well, are we going to start a hardware store, or are we going to start a film festival? And so, I remember, some of the creating, my son James, who's now a senior in college, created the first website, because what do I know about creating websites? Right? You need a teenager to create a website, or you did then. So you really do integrate it. And these days, I think Maggie, sometimes she goes to these events. My wife goes to these events somewhat grudgingly, but she still goes. And James came home from school for the Colbert event the other night, so it's still a fun rallying point for the family.
But you work to keep it. Again, the word balance is such an odd expression. We were talking to Ira Robbins, the CEO of Valley, and he's like, "There's no balance.
There's no balance, and even integration doesn't feel right. We're always trying to struggle. That'll be your next book. Is really how do you find? I guess it is integration. It's really challenging to do that.
Well, you guys know, and you're both this type. The expression, right? You need to get something done. Ask a busy person to get it done for you. And I'm always amazed at that. I mean, Maggie and I are now involved in helping launch a theater nonprofit in Montclair called
in your spare time?
Called the Montclair Theater Project.
The Montclair Theater Project. Go ahead.
And we're producing original and classic works of theater. The first one is going to be something called the Oldenburg Suite. That's a sung-through musical. I don't know when this will air, but it's a musical that's going to run for 2 nights at the Cali School of Music.
This is going to air in January, so go ahead.
This will be January 3rd and 4th. It's a musical with a book and lyrics by James Feinberg, my son. The musical was performed.
Excuse me, James. Do you think you're going to get these plugs? This is awesome. So James did the.
James wrote the book and lyrics. It's about.
Wow.
It's an amazing fact-based musical about the pop artist Klaus Oldenburg from the 70s and 80s, and his brother Richard, who at the time was the artistic director of the Museum of Modern Art, of MoMA, in New York City. And they were hanging around with people like Andy Warhol, going to parties, launching careers, and it's about sort of their lives. So when this group of people in Montclair started thinking about launching a nonprofit to help promote theater, we thought what a great way to start, because we really want to promote actors, musicians, writers, composers from Montclair and around Montclair. And we have a cast of 10 people. Almost half of them are graduates of Montclair High School, the School of Visual Performing Arts, or the theater program at Montclair State University. Another great endeavor, but so busy people.
That's right.
I've got to ask though,
things.
where did this interest in art come from? Because now you're talking about the Montclair film, now the Montclair
Remember, Bob
theater.
went to law school.
That's what I'm wondering. I'm like, there's not many lawyers that I know.
Mutually exclusive.
So does your legal ask your question, because then I'm curious.
That's my question.
Go ahead.
There's not many lawyers that I know that are that into the arts that would go in addition to your busy, 9 to 5 day job that you're doing all this other
Trust
stuff.
me, we do a lot of training in the legal field, leadership development. I don't think many of them are that into the arts.
Where's the interest of the arts come from?
At least they're not creating organizations. I'm going to say that.
I think. Listen, I'll put in a very quick quick recommendation, what have you, for lawyers. A lot of lawyers are very creative people. A lot of them aren't, but a lot of lawyers are very creative people. And I've been very lucky to be able to sort of ply my trade as a lawyer at a place like Channel 13, like WNET.
Yeah, talk about that.
So that's all of my clients at WNET are creative people. They're creating television programs, podcasts.
To disclose, we're one of them. Go ahead.
And that I find really rewarding. Frankly, it fits with whatever side of the brain works for me, to be able to be the lawyer for creative people and to be around creative people and to help them sort of think through the issues that you have to address when you're creating content in 2019.
To what degree, Bob, do you feel that your legal background, your training not only in law school but being a lawyer, has helped you be the best leader you can be?
One of the things that always appealed to me about being a lawyer, and earlier in my career, I was a litigator. I've always thought that being a litigator is a great opportunity to get dropped into lots of very different situations, different businesses, different interactions between people, and it requires you to sort of learn a new field every time you have a new client. And that's exciting because you're not doing the same thing over and over again. And it helps you, or it gives you the opportunity to help people who might not, as they say, think like a lawyer. But I really do like plying that trade in a creative environment.
Last question for Bob Feinberg, the founder and chairman of the board, Montclair Film, and also vice president, general counsel, and secretary, WNET, New York Public Media. And to disclose again, we've collaborated with and been there. I don't know whether the term is clients or whatever. We wouldn't be able to do what we do on public broadcasting with our program if it were not for WNET and NJTV and Bob and his team and the CEO there, Neil Shapiro. But that being said, last question. We're big fans of being self-aware and knowing what your strengths are as a leader and also your opportunities to be better. One area you need to get better as a leader is, as we wrap up?
One area I need to get better?
Yes, I know. Don't tell me what mine are. I already know. Mary tells me every day, so go ahead.
I need to develop a better store of patience because I get impatient with people. I get impatient with processes.
Stop giving me stink eye over there, Mary Gamba. Go ahead.
I think I've had people say to me, "Look, you need to not let people know when you think they're not doing what they should be doing. You need to find better ways to do that." And
I consider this a great leadership attribute. This has been Bob Feinberg, the founder and chairman of the board of a terrific organization. By the way, tell everyone the website so they can go, not just find out what's going on, but also contribute because everybody needs money.
MontclairFilm.org.
Okay, and there's film festivals coming up when?
May 1st through 10th of 2020.
You want to talk about growth? First year, Montclair Film Festival had how many films?
It was about 45 films over 5 days, and in May of 2020, it'll be about 180 films over 10 days.
Awesome. And also, Bob is, as I said, the Vice President, General Counsel, and Secretary WNET over in New York. Bob, thank you for joining us on Lessons in Leadership.
Guys. This was great. Thank you.
See, Mary, you always think you know what's going to happen, and we don't. That's why we have good guests. I'm Steve Adubato. That's Mary Gamba. We'll be right back right after this. Lessons in Leadership.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
This edition of Lessons in Leadership is brought to you by Gibbons PC, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, New Jersey Resources, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. Welcome back to Lessons in Leadership. I'm Steve Adubato with Mary Gamba, and I want to thank our good friend Bob Feinberg from Montclair Film, and also from over at WNET NJ TV. Again, same question I always ask you, but after we have someone come in who's such a strong leader, takeaways.
Having the ability, and I know we always say this, and having that ability to be a leader, to have a vision and to get people to follow you is just one of the greatest assets of a leader. And it's funny because when we started the project doing Lessons in Leadership, I really didn't know how many different perspectives we would hear on leadership.
Do you think we run out of stuff after a couple of shows?
I did. I really did. And I think
did.
we're on like episode 85 now. I don't know, right. JP, Brian, it's around there. Mm-hmm. And every time there's a new lesson, a new takeaway. So I almost feel like we should pay our guests to be here rather than us getting paid to be here.
That's an absurd idea.
And just listening to Bob really...
we can't afford that.
We can't afford that, no. Listening to Bob talk about how, as you had said, one day you were just sitting there, you had this idea.
No, he I'm
had
telling
the idea.
How
many people have an idea like that
and
it
never goes anywhere? Conversations
anywhere?
like that. I was just one person.
Right.
He had to go sell that. It was at night, 8 o'clock at night, after he did his work over in New York in public broadcasting. Do you realize how many dinners he had, how many breakfasts he had, how many lunches, how many late night conversations? Yep. Here's the one I'm trying to get at. And I watched my dad in 1970 create a not-for-profit organization. I remember being a little kid, and my dad was just building this thing. Yeah. And I was like, what is he doing? Why is he never around?
He's building relationships. That's what he's doing. And leadership all comes down to building relationships with others. And it could be something as big as Montclair Film. It could be something a lot smaller. It could be a fundraiser. It could be anything. And the ability to build relationships, you never know when you're going to need someone, something to just really help you to put something together like that.
And there's another part to that. Mary and I are students of relationship building, which is why we thank our sponsors, such as...
Absolutely, definitely. Prager Metis, New Jersey Resources, Investors Bank, Gibbons, we talked about them before. Who else am I missing? MD Advantage, RWJ Barnabas Health. So we just have a lot of great people that make this possible.
And also the folks at Hackensack Meridian Health and St. Joseph's Health. Okay, why do we say all this? Because, and I said I'd come back to this later. Mm-hmm. So with Bob Feinberg, I know when he was starting to raise money for Montclair Film or Montclair Film Festival, how hard that was. Going into their 10th year, it's no less challenging in an environment where everyone's looking to secure resources. And I remember he convinced the folks at Investors, right, to come on board. And Kevin Cummings, the CEO, and which is one of their major sponsors, but also they've got the building where they have Montclair Film. It's the Investors building with them. Why am I saying all this? Because sometimes people become very transactional, meaning they think leadership is about making deals. Okay, yeah, it is. But do you ever see people who make a deal, they celebrate, they check off the box as if they're done? That relationship, just like, I don't want to be corny here, but like a plant or whatever, I don't know how to garden anything, but you have to keep nurturing that thing, because if you go back at the last minute and you go, hey, yeah, we need your money again. Mm-hmm. Hey, yeah, we need something from you again. I'd like to have a transaction with you again.
Right.
It's the reaction of most people.
Most people are going to be turned off, as they should be. If they were good enough to be brought to the table in the beginning because you thought you saw something in them and they'd want to partner, they should definitely be with it side by side for the rest of the relationship.
What does this have to do with leadership? Because most people are moving forward a million miles an hour. And we talked about the hub and spokes. You're the hub, and all these spokes are your key relationships. And
yep.
Stakeholder is a weird term. It's like who matters in your world.
Oh, and I have a prop. I had a handwritten note, and we were talking about this earlier.
Is it from?
It is from our friend. Yep, from Bernie. And so we had a call. And
this was the major union leader that we.
Yes,
right,
and it could be from anyone. But I received a handwritten note. You did as well.
Same guy.
Simply thanking us for taking the time for a call. And I was shocked. I will remember that. I mean, we get handwritten notes as like a thank you for maybe having somebody as a guest on the show, or if you send them a holiday basket. But just literally a thank you, a handwritten note, That is the core of relationship building. That's what we're talking about, because I will remember that. I will remember, and a lot of times people say you're not going to remember what somebody said, but you're going to remember how they made you feel. I will always remember that Bernie made me feel like I was important enough for him to take the time out of whatever else he was doing to write a handwritten note. It's simple, so basic, but so powerful.
You know, to Mary's point, we're in the business, and Bob Feinberg is the leader of a not-for-profit at Montclair Film and also chief counsel over in New York at WNET. So both are it's a nonprofit as well, and was a key person with Neil Shapiro, who was the leader behind the movement to create NJTV, which is owned by WNET. Why do I say all this? Because we're all in the business of raising money, right? We're all in the business of bringing in sponsors / underwriters. Why is this relevant? The other day, we got a major renewal of a sponsorship. And I remember, because you work so hard at, and you're going to say, why are we doing so much about fundraising? Here's a connection to leadership that I see. So we were working really hard, and we got an email the other day that one of those major sponsors came back, and it was a big amount of money, and you and I both know how much that pays for things, right? And I thought, wow, that's great. And I literally went to this little, my whiteboard that I have with the names of all the folks.
Dry erase board.
Yeah, and our daughter Olivia helps me circle them, and she thinks it's our money. I tried to explain we're a nonprofit. It's not our money. And the day was going on. There's a point to this. And I hadn't thanked the chief executive officer of that organization, who was key in making the decision to renew their sponsorship. And I was about to check it off and say, oh, well, listen, she knows how much we appreciate it. And I'm not patting myself on the back, but at the last minute, I just wrote a little email and I said, listen, I want you to know how much we appreciate you having confidence in us. We couldn't do what we do without you. Every word I said I meant, not a handwritten note, but an email. I think it mattered to her.
Yeah. And it also matters going in the opposite way. It works with your team. So say, for example, if you have a larger team or even a smaller team, you need to make sure that you're also connecting and building those relationships with the people on your team. Or if not, those could just as quickly wilt, to use the garden analogy. I don't garden either.
Well, they already know what devil's advocate.
Right.
She knows she did a good job. He knows he did a good job. Why am I telling them?
People need to hear it. People need to have those touch points, and they need to, and it doesn't always have to be thank you or attaboy or just, hey, I realize that you went out of your way to do X, Y, Z, and I really appreciate it. Or by you, and you do this with me often, you'll be like, I just want to let you know that when you leave a seminar late at night, I want to let you know that what you did to prepare me for the seminar.
Which, by the way, I don't really know what you did.
Right, exactly.
I just know it looks like a lot.
But that's good, because that helps me know that I'm doing something right, because you shouldn't know all that goes into making the sausage, as we talk about. You don't want to know what goes into making the sausage, but if you make it right, it's sure going to taste good at the end of the day.
Okay,
and that's
again,
what it
real
boils
quick,
down to.
we have about a minute or so left. What about all those leaders listening, or those in leadership positions who say, stop, people aren't that needy. They don't really
everybody.
need it.
Leadership is all, you need to accept that people are needy. It's human nature. People want to, whether it's a handshake, a pat on the back, words, people need to have
Same
that.
thing with our kids.
Yeah.
We're proud of you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We know you did your best.
And that's all you need to say. Those words, I'm proud of you, I love you. If there's nothing else that you say to your kids, and at work, saying thank you. That's it. It's not complicated.
In that spirit, let's thank the folks who carry the Lessons in Leadership program. That starts with our great friends, AM 970, Jerry Crowley, and Laura. Laura Schaefer, right? They're terrific at AM 970. You can listen to us every weekend over there, also on their website as well at AM 970. The folks over at FiOS On Demand, at ROI, and Jay at the New Jersey Business and Industry Association, also at Apple Podcasts, Google Play. And we also have to make sure we thank the folks at East Main Media Studio. We would not, no way we could do this without them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mary, thank you for helping to make this possible. And also one more quick time to our sponsors over at Prager Metis, a great accounting firm, over at Larry Downs, the previous CEO, the past CEO over at New Jersey Resources, also at Valley, at Gibbons, at Hackensack Meridian Health, New Jersey Resources, as I said, Local 825 operating engineers, MD Advantage, St. Joseph's, RWJ Barnabas Health. Thank you. Mary, you want to say anything else?
No, thank you. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate you.
I was just kind of looking for that. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for Lessons in Leadership, but you know that because it's behind me. Thanks.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
This edition of Lessons in Leadership is brought to you by Gibbons PC, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, New Jersey Resources, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825. Think Tank with me, Steve Adubato, is brought to you by these public-spirited organizations.
TD Bank, New Jersey Sharing Network, dedicated to saving lives through organ and tissue donation. Community Food Bank of New Jersey. NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan. Turn a dream into a degree. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Johnson & Johnson. And by Choose New Jersey. Our mission is attracting companies to the Garden State. Promotional support provided by NJ Advance Media. And by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey.
Welcome to Think Tank, the podcast. I'm Steve Adubato. The program you're about to see was taped earlier this year. Clearly, so much has changed since then, and unfortunately, a lot of uncertainty and fear remain. But the content in this Think Tank podcast and the issues explored will still matter once we get through these very difficult times together. Most importantly, we hope and pray that you and your family are safe. So without further ado, Think Tank, the podcast. Welcome to Think Tank, the podcast. I am Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from East Bay Media Studio. And in the studio, I want to welcome our good friend Jeanette Hoffman, who's a Republican strategist and president of Marathon Public Affairs, can be seen every weekend on New Jersey Now on My 9, and also Chasing News.
On My 9, 11 p.m., and Fox New York at 1 a.m. if you're still up.
Good stuff. And by the way, since we're going to be talking about this very important issue of women on the American political scene and the role of women, not only in New Jersey, but across the nation, and what the heck is going on and why aren't there more women in important, powerful positions? But one woman who's in a very powerful position is Nicole Swenarton, who is the senior producer of Think Tank, the broadcast, who's been pulled into on-air duty, if you will. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you guys?
Doing great. Let me ask you this. Tell folks where they can find Think Tank, the podcast, if they're looking for not only this episode, but others.
Sure. So to hear more Think Tank podcasts, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Google Play, or you can visit our website at steveadubato.org. That's ADUBATO. You can also follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato and on Facebook at Steve Adubato PhD to see more great content.
Good stuff. We're about to listen to Debbie Walsh, the director of the Center for American Women in Politics at Rutgers. I'm curious about this. There are the 120 seats in the state legislature, right?
Right.
Of which I served for one very undistinguished term back in the mid-'80s.
Very distinguished, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. That's why I was unelected in 85 or 6, whatever it was. How about this? Only 37 of the 120 members of the legislature are women?
I know. It's so
2020?
sad.
What's up with that?
It's so sad. We need to do better, Steve. Both parties. And I know you're going to single out the Republican Party, but
No, I know I'm not. But what I am curious about is, why is it so hard?
It's hard. It's the county system and the party bosses.
What does that mean? Break that down for those who are not inside baseball.
So Debbie's going to talk a little bit about this on the podcast, but it's the way the people who are in charge of getting the candidates to run for office, the people who are in charge of giving those candidates the money to run for office, that select the candidates, it's an old boys network. It's the backroom people sitting around smoking cigars saying, you're going to run for this, you're going to run for that.
Still?
Mostly men. Of the 21 counties, there's a Republican county chair and a Democratic county chair. So that's 42 people. About 9 of them are women. So mostly an old boys network. It is getting better. In my lifetime, I've seen a lot more women get involved in the process. I think it's generational. I think, in the next 10 years, I think we're going to see those numbers increase. And I'm very optimistic and I'm very hopeful, but we all need to be doing better.
When Mikey Sherrill was elected, again, it was significant. And I remember you were producing one of those shows with us. Does that inspire you when you see more women out there, A? And B, we just heard Jeanette talking about the numbers are not great in New Jersey. Loaded, I know, that question.
I mean, someone like Mikey Sherrill is certainly inspiring, and to be one of the two...
By the way, excuse me, on the other end of that same show is Holly Schapese, a Republican. We talked about on one of our other shows, very inspiring as well. Go
Sure,
ahead.
I also really admire her as well. And for Mikey Sherrill to be one of the two women in... who is representative in the state of New Jersey out of 12, I think it's a big deal, and it's just important for young women to see someone like that in a leadership role. But I think what it really comes down to, going off of what Jeanette just said as well, is why won't men want to support women? And
Is that a rhetorical question?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's definitely generational. I think that it just comes down to, I mean, women have only been voting for 100 years, so it's only been a couple generations since we've been able to have a real say in who we want to see in office. So I think that when men have been just controlling the system for so long, it's going to still take a lot longer to turn things around.
You ready? Hillary Clinton, my mother. Mom, I know you're listening right now to Think Tank, the podcast. She was so excited that Hillary Clinton was going to be the first woman president. And I used to say to her, Ma, I don't know. I'm not convinced that even most women like her. Now, the reason I'm saying that is that there are some who argued, A, that it would have been very significant, obviously, but that she wasn't the, quote, right woman. What the heck does that mean, the right woman?
It wasn't because she was a woman candidate. She was just a bad candidate, Steve. She was just not the right Democratic candidate. And I'm not saying it was because she was a woman. She just had too much baggage, okay? She just wasn't ready. People wanted an outsider. They wanted Trump. They wanted Bernie. It wasn't her year. So if it was a different woman, maybe she could have won the presidency.
Well, let's play this out
I
a little
don't think
bit.
It was an anti-woman thing at all.
Okay.
I think she ran a bad campaign, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, let's get into this. Personality matters, right? And I've said many times, I wrote in my book, Lessons in Leadership, which I will now plug on another show. I wrote extensively about Hillary Clinton's persona and the fact that she didn't connect with people on a personal level. So let me ask you this. Do you think, from your sense, Nicole, that there's any difference in the way a woman is quote unquote likable? We've done a lot of programming on likability versus a man running in public life and business. Is there a difference?
Absolutely, and I think everybody knows that. It is.
Do we?
Of course.
What's the difference? Make the case.
I mean, Hillary Clinton was criticized, and basically every female candidate has been criticized for what they're wearing on stage, for how dressed up they are, for how their hair looks, for everything about them, the way that they run their families. I mean, it's everything, and I think that men are not criticized the same way, and it just makes it so much harder for women to convince men and women to support them. I should say women as well.
I would agree with Nicole. I think there's a double standard. It's just harder for women. But going back to what we said before, it's generational and it is getting better.
What's changing? Then why are there only 37 of the 120 seats in the state legislature controlled? If it's getting better, it's not even close to half.
What was it 20 years ago, Steve? Right? It's getting better. Look, my county chairman, Sean Golden, I'll put him on the spot. He's doing a great job recruiting women to run. Monmouth. He's doing a great job recruiting women to run for office in the Assembly, in the Senate. And, he's looking at this holistically and saying, if we have 51% women in Monmouth County, we should have 51% women representing us. And it's not just at the state legislative levels. We need more women to run for township mayors,
Board of
Education, for freeholders. You don't just start being a congresswoman.
Mikey Sherrill's the exception who just ran for United States Congress. That's not the norm.
I speak at, the Ready to Run program that COP has, that Debbie Walsh talks about. I speak at it every year, and I say to women, if you want to run for office, you don't just send out your resume and say, I want to be CEO. No, you start from the bottom. You start running for township council. You start running for Board of Education. That's how men start that way too. And sometimes a lot of women, make that mistake saying, I want to run, I'm running for Congress. No, you really got to start from the bottom. You build your grassroots. You start raising money. And another issue that women have a really hard time doing is raising money.
Harder than men? Trust me, I raise money every day for our production, and it's not easy.
It's not easy.
But you think it's harder for women?
It is harder for women.
Why?
We're
Why
not
would it be any
used
different?
to doing it. And you know what we're also not used to doing? Giving money to other women. We need to put money where our mouths are and give money to other women candidates. We need to support each other.
Wow.
Yep.
Look at you. You're like, yes.
Right?
You're like,
Agree with all that.
Our daughter Olivia, who's 9, she's involved with this group called Girls on the Run. Didn't we do a...
Love Girls on the Run.
Yeah, we did something, Girls on the Run. And every Saturday they got together because we're doing this in the winter. And they're yelling girl power. And I'm like, they're so strong. They're so tough. They're out there in terrible weather. And I'm thinking,
awesome.
These young women are the ones who are going to change things. And so in that spirit, that's why we have Think Tank, the podcast with two very strong women here. Can we thank our funders again? Lauren, I should do that, right? If not, we don't have any money to pay for anything. Franklin Templeton, Choose New Jersey, the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, and Johnson & Johnson. I want to thank our friends at East Main Media Studio. Brian, everything good?
Everything's great.
And the Think Tank, the podcast is great because of folks like Jeanette who come in and offer her analysis and commentary. Check her out virtually every day over on Fox 5 and My 9 on Chasing News, and also with our good friend Diane Doctor, who hosts on the weekends New Jersey Now.
New Jersey Now, My 9.
And by the way, how much fun are you having working for the Caucus Educational Corporation as a senior producer of podcasts with an incredibly evolved CEO? Yeah, it's me. Okay. Isn't it great?
Having a lot of fun. Yes, this is all very exciting.
By the way, let me make it clear that all our producers are women. That's why the shows are good. So Debbie, the most important woman in this particular case is Debbie Walsh. You're about to hear. She's the director of the Center for American Women and Politics at the great state university, which would be Rutgers University. And our football team will win one day. I swear. I just don't know when. Think Tank, the podcast. Check it out.
I could feel my lungs fill with oxygen, and I got my life back.
The Sharing Network means to me hope, life, and everything.
The Sharing Network was a lifeline to me when I really needed it.
We are an organ procurement organization.
The core purpose of the New Jersey Sharing Network is to save and enhance lives.
To honor those who gave.
Pay tribute to those who received.
Offer hope to those who continue to wait.
And remember the lives lost while waiting.
For the gift of life.
This is Debbie Walsh, director of the Center for American Women and Politics at Rutgers University. We were talking about, let's disclose, previously we were both Eagleton Fellows.
Right, in the graduate program at the Eagleton Institute of Politics.
Yes, I barely got in and barely got out. So let's do this, Debbie. Let's talk about women in politics. Women make up what percent of the population in New Jersey?
About 51% in New Jersey and nationally.
And in the state legislature in New Jersey, of the 120 members of that august body, there are how many women?
About 31% of the legislature is female.
31?
31%.
Because?
Oh, so many reasons, Steve. New Jersey has been a tough place for women to break in. I will tell you that at 31%, we're doing better than we have in a very long time. We rank 19th in the nation. We used to be, just a year ago, 13th in the nation, but when the elections happened in 2018 and we saw so many women getting elected across the country, even though New Jersey's numbers stayed the same, we dropped in our rank. But we are doing better. It used to be 15 years ago, we were in the bottom 10 with Alabama and Mississippi. And a lot of work has been done to try to increase the number of women in office in New Jersey. But there remain a lot of hurdles. And I think in large part, the greatest one is the party structure.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Is it fair to say that most of the party leaders, the party structure, the party power brokers, those who you don't read about, well, put it this way, you don't see them on this show a lot, but they're the folks who make a lot of decisions about who gets to run. They're just middle-aged and older white men.
Older white men. And if you look around the state on both sides of the aisle, I think it's only about 9 women who are currently county party chairs.
Right.
The rest of them are all men. And those folks make a lot of decisions about who gets to run and, frankly, who doesn't get to run.
Not always looking for women.
Not always looking for women, and it's not necessarily a transparent process in New Jersey. A lot of the times these decisions are made behind closed doors, and women are not in the room. We run a nonpartisan campaign training program called Ready to Run in New Jersey. We get close to 200 women every year who sign up, and they are ready to run, and they may think that they're in line, but sometimes the line moves, and they don't know quite how to get there.
Is the quote-unquote old boys network as alive and well, and not so well for a lot of reasons, as it was 15, 20 years ago?
I think it's better. Things have improved, but there is still... I think that what's improved is I think some of the men out there who run the show have realized that it's a good thing for them to run women. It's smart politics to run women. But I think the men are still largely the folks making those decisions. Women aren't in the inside in those back rooms when a lot of these decisions are made in most of the counties.
Me Too made a difference? The Me Too movement made any difference? Has it made, in your view, any difference in men who were involved in these decisions being aware enough, smart enough, practical enough, do the right thing, and put women out there?
We'd like to think so. We'd like to think that this is having an impact here in New Jersey. I think it definitely has had an impact nationally.
It has.
I think we saw it in 2018 with record numbers of women running for office, state legislatures, Congress, and record numbers of women winning. Largely, almost exclusively on the Democratic side. Republican women still have a long way to go. But here in New Jersey, I think it's been slower. We did manage to go from one woman member of Congress from New Jersey to two.
By the way, Mikey Sherrill, excuse me for interrupting, sat right there. Congresswoman Sherrill, check out that interview you did with her. And when she talked about how many women came in this class.
Yeah.
In this class in Congress. She said it's very refreshing.
36 women. It's the largest freshman class that we've seen of women. Again, almost exclusively on the Democratic side. Of all of those newly elected women, one newly elected Republican woman last time.
What's up with the Republicans?
It's a complicated situation. So the Republican Party in general does not put the kind of resources into women's candidacies that the Democratic side does. Not just with the party itself, but outside organizations. There is nothing comparable to an Emily's List, PAC for Democratic pro-choice women, on the Republican
Emily's List,
side.
it's a great way to raise money for women running for office.
Fantastic way to raise money. But also on the Republican side, there is a real reluctance to identify with the concept of identity politics.
Huh?
Well, their idea is, on the Republican side, is that the best candidate will rise to the top, whoever that is, and you don't necessarily need women or people of color to represent the interests of women and people of color.
Well, how about representing the population?
Yep, they'll say that the best candidates will come to the fore, and that's how to do it. Paul Ryan said when he was Speaker that the reason there is the kind of partisan divide and gridlock in Washington, D.C. was because of identity politics. The Democratic Party embraces identity politics, and that helps when it comes to recruiting women candidates.
Let me ask you, someone listening, excuse me, right now saying, Debbie Walsh from Rutgers, from the the Center for American Women in Politics at Rutgers. She's speaking, and she's clearly favoring the Democrats and is being critical of the Republicans. You say facts are facts?
I say facts are facts, but I also say if we're ever going to get to political parity in this country for women, both parties have to do the work. And we need the Republican Party to do more. We need more Republican women in office. We need more women on both sides of the aisle. We're still less than a quarter women in Congress, but the Democrats are doing much better. The Republicans need to do better. And the Democratic women in Congress tell us they want to see more Republican women in office, and the Republican women in Congress tell us the same thing.
Is there a women's caucus? Is it real?
There is a bipartisan caucus in Washington for women's issues that is not nearly as strong as it used to be. It is much harder these days for that kind of work across the aisle to exist.
This is Debbie Walsh she's the director of the Center for American Women in Politics at Rutgers University, my alma mater. They try to ignore that, but they can't.
We claim you.
Yeah, once in a while. Thank you. This is State of Affairs. I'm Steve Adubato. Let's continue the conversation. Follow me on Twitter at Steve Adubato. See you next time. Thank you very much.
What is your child's dream for the future? Doctor? Teacher? Architect? Whatever they aspire to be, a college education may realize those dreams. And NJ Best can help. It's the college savings plan specifically designed for New Jersey families. Start saving today with as little as $25, because now is the time to invest in their future. To learn about NJ Best 529 College Savings Plan, its investment objectives, risks, and costs, read the Investor Handbook available at njbest.com.
Highly educated and perfectly located in the heart of the Northeast Corridor, New Jersey provides access to top talent and one of the most concentrated and diverse consumer markets in the world. A business located in central New Jersey has access to more than 22 million consumers within a 2-hour drive. Whether it's our strategic location, transportation systems, reliable utilities, or talented workforce, New Jersey has all you need to grow your business. To learn more, visit choosenj.com.
Think Tank with me, Steve Adubato, is brought to you by these public-spirited organizations.
TD Bank, New Jersey Sharing Network, Community Food Bank of New Jersey. NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, moving the region through air, land, rail, and sea. Kessler Foundation. And by Choose New Jersey. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. Small news, big news, true Jersey. And by ROINJ. Informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey.
Welcome to Think Tank, the podcast. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from East May Media Studios, the beautiful studios here at East May Media. By the way, they produce a great show every Sunday on News 12 Plus at, Brian, you guys are on 11:30?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock, that's right. We're on at 10 with the Leadership Show and 10:30 with Think Tank, the podcast. You guys are on 11, and the name of the show is?
Tap Into TV.
I don't even know if we can see Brian. We just heard that, but check out Tap Into TV every Sunday at 11 o'clock on News 12 Plus. By the way, speaking of great broadcasters, Mary Gamba, who never expected to be on air, but you are.
Yes, I know. Broadcaster. I'm going to add that to my resume title for sure.
Yes. And by the way, check out Mary every Sunday. Why I have a baseball? Because it's getting to be baseball season. As a Yankee fan, you know they're going to win the World Series. But Mary's on the co-host of the Lessons in Leadership show every Sunday. This is Think Tank, the podcast. Mary, on this show, talk about, it's just interesting. When I think about leadership, I also often think about resilience, being tough. You're about to see an interview with Kelly Thomas, research participant, University of Louisville. We went up to the Kessler Foundation, our good friends and partners there. They're recently opening up the Center for Spinal Stimulation, the Tim and Caroline Reynolds Center for Spinal Stimulation at Kessler Foundation. And this young woman, Kelly Thomas, we interviewed earlier in the year. Extraordinary.
Absolutely extraordinary. So Kelly was in a car accident. Her car actually rolled over 4 times and she was paralyzed. And at that moment, she was told, you will never walk again. And thanks to the folks at the Kessler Center for Spinal Stimulation, as well as the University of Louisville, she was a research participant there. They were actually able to put an epidural stimulation device into her spinal cord. And then at the event that you were at, she was actually able to demonstrate how she could walk with a walker, moving her legs. And she is just somebody that overcame major adversity, and there's no telling where she's going to go.
So, for those of you, check out Think Tank, the podcast, because we examine public policy issues nationally, regionally, et cetera. That's great. But every once in a while here on Think Tank, the podcast, which you can catch every Sunday at 10:30 on News 12 Plus and other platforms as well, we want to do inspiring stories, people who make a difference. And even though we do a leadership show at 10 o'clock on News 12 Plus, Kelly Thomas is a leader by example. She's had it tough, but you couldn't tell from this interview. This is Kelly Thomas on Think Tank, the podcast.
That's Kelly Thomas, barrel racing in a rodeo. The Florida native was an active teenager riding horses, playing soccer, and working on the family farm. Then, disaster. July 2014. A car accident left Kelly paralyzed in a wheelchair, with her doctors saying she would never walk again.
Steve Adubato on location at Kessler Foundation. We're here for a very important forum, a discussion. It's called Transforming Care and Recovery for People with Spinal Cord Injury. And we're honored to be joined by one of the research participants here tonight. By the way, excuse the sound behind us. A lot of people want to be a part of this conversation. They want to listen and participate. So just bear with us. But Kelly Thomas is a research participant. Kelly, in 2014, you were involved in a car accident.
I was.
Talk about the injuries.
Well, I have a C7 T1 spinal cord injury. It's incomplete, so I have sensation, but I didn't have any motor. So my accident was a rollover motor vehicle accident. I ran off the shoulder of the road, flipped my vehicle 4 times, and was hanging half in, half out of the vehicle whenever, thank God, a retired paramedic was walking his dog down the street and saved my life.
We were talking right before we got on the air, and I asked Kelly about being a research participant. And you're going to demonstrate something tonight, a very important movement that was not possible how long ago?
5 years this year.
And by the way, Kelly's a part of, she's involved with epidural stimulation.
Yes.
And before I go back to how tough it was to make the decision to actually be a participant, explain to folks what epidural stimulation is.
So what the epidural stimulator is it's a spinal implant, and the spinal electrode lays in my lower lumbar spine, and I have a battery that's actually implanted in my lower abdomen, my lower left abdomen, and it has all the data in it that has different configurations that helps me facilitate movement. So many people have this epidural stimulator. It's a Medtronic device, and people use it for pain all the time, to block the signals of pain, and I use it for movement.
How much has it changed your life?
Dramatically.
How so?
Dramatically. Whenever I suffered my spinal cord injury, I asked my neurosurgeon, eye to eye, I said, what are my chances of ever walking again? And he said, I won't say 0, but maybe 1 or 2%. And I said, okay, I'll be your 1 or 2%. And I worked and worked as hard as I possibly could. And I had made progress, but I kind of hit a plateau, hit a wall, and I needed something more, and this epidural stimulator was available. And I moved to Kentucky for 1.5 years, and I did what I was told I would never do again. And so now I'm able to go out into the community and walk, and it's fantastic being eye level with other people.
Professionally, your background?
Professionally, I'm an amateur. I'm a college student. I was actually going to school for physical therapy whenever I had my accident. But I've changed my major, so I'm a criminal justice major.
Really?
I'm a senior, yes. So I'll finish my criminal justice degree in May, and I'll go to law school.
You're going to law school.
I am.
You're going to become a lawyer.
Yes.
Any particular kind of law you want to focus on?
Criminal law.
Criminal law.
Yes.
You were a little bit reluctant to become a research participant.
I was.
Because?
I was afraid. I was skeptical. The other research participants at that time had not really reached a level of success that I was looking for. I wanted to walk. I wanted to do it. I wanted to be the biggest and best at it, kind of my nature. So they had gotten 1 or 2 things back. You know, they had regained the ability to sweat. They could stand. But I wanted to walk, and none of them at that point were walking. And that what if got into my brain. What if I'm the one that figures it out? What if I'm the one that walks?
Were you always this tough?
Yes, I was raised on a farm. I was raised by cowboys. So I was taught my whole life that you don't try at things, you do things. So
we are honored to have you with us tonight. Honored to listen to you share your experience, and we look forward to, most importantly, your continued progress and success. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's powerful stuff from Kelly Thomas. I want to thank Kelly and also the folks at Kessler Foundation and the Center for Spinal Stimulation up at Kessler Foundation. Mary, by the way, let's thank our funders who made Think Tank, the podcast, possible.
Absolutely. Atlantic Health System, Johnson & Johnson, Franklin Templeton, as well as Suez.
That's right. By the way, we would not be able to do what we do if it were not for those generous corporations and foundations who support us. So every Sunday you catch Think Tank, the podcast, right here on News 12 Plus at 10:30. And by the way, right before that, 10 o'clock is Lessons in Leadership. And make sure you check out Brian and his team doing Tap Into TV every Sunday at 11 o'clock on News 12 Plus. I'm Steve Adubato. This has been Think Tank, the podcast. Thank you for watching. But most importantly, what do I say, Mary?
Think for yourself.
Yeah, no, don't. I'll think for myself. You think for yourself. Yes. Catch you next time.
I could feel my lungs fill with oxygen, and I got my life back.
The Sharing Network means to me hope, life, and everything.
The Sharing Network was a lifeline to me when I really needed it.
We are an organ procurement organization.
The core purpose of the New Jersey Sharing Network is to save and enhance lives.
To honor those who gave.
Pay tribute to those who received.
Offer hope to those who continue to wait.
And remember the lives lost while waiting.
For the gift of life.
You may not have heard of TAVR. Raj and Sandhya have. It's the minimally invasive alternative to open heart valve replacement. RWJ Barnabas Health is New Jersey's leading TAVR provider, and we continue to perfect it. Patients are often back to their lives in just a few days. innovative valve replacement surgery. Because you can't be replaced. RWJ Barnabas Health. Let's be healthy together.
Think Tank with me, Steve Adubato, is brought to you by these public-spirited organizations.
TD Bank, New Jersey Sharing Network, Community Food Bank of New Jersey. NJ Best, New Jersey's 529 College Savings Plan. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. Kessler Foundation. And by Choose New Jersey. Promotional support provided by NJ.com. And by ROINJ.